All right, we're back. The Constitution has already been terminated. Constitutional lawyer John Whitehead, I got the article here in front of me. I'm going to read you some of these points, and then everyone can kind of like take a look at themselves and hopefully break this down. And I'm going to love to hear what you think about this. So let's go through these points real quick. We are in the grip of martial law. I'm just going to read one sentence from each paragraph. We have what the founders feared most, a standing or permanent army on American soil. We are in the government's crosshairs. The U.S. government continues to act as judge, jury, and executioner over the populace. We are no longer safe in our homes. We have no real freedom of speech. I don't think I need to read any sentences for these topics here. We have no real privacy. We are losing our right to bodily privacy and integrity. Mostly talking about the recent mandates with jabs and all that stuff. We no longer have a right to private property. If government agents can invade your home, break down your doors, kill your dog, damage your furnishings, and terrorize your family, your property is no longer private and secure. It belongs to the government. We know what happened in Canada recently. Hardworking Americans are having their bank accounts, homes, cars, electronics, and cash seized by police under the assumption that they have allegedly been associated with some criminal scheme. Okay? This is straight out of Stalin's playbook. We have no due process. We are no longer presumed innocent. Remember, what was the case, Kavanaugh? Remember when that was introduced? We have lost the right to be anonymous and move about freely. We no longer have a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. We have no guardians of justice. The courts were established to intervene and protect the people against the government and its agents when they overstep their bounds. Yet, through their deference to police power, preferences for security over freedom, our most basic rights, for the sake of order and expediency, the courts have become the guardians of the American police state in which we now live. We have been saddled with a dictator for life. Unfortunately, we have done this to ourselves. And this is what you mentioned on our first or second, I forgot, video that we made. Mm-hmm. And for those that are new, I have privilege again to speak with Brian Norris, retired first sergeant, over 20 years in Army. He was all over the world on many battlefields, led over 170 men into battle. And I would like to hear his thoughts on John Whitehead's, that, by the way, is constitutional lawyer that wrote this article on Zero Hedge. What are your thoughts on this?
It's not surprising. He's saying everything that we already knew. We just don't want to admit it to ourselves. It's like having a mountain of credit card debt and you keep ignoring the mail when it comes in. Sooner or later, it's no longer going to be a parcel in your mailbox. It's going to be someone knocking on your door, taking your car, repossessing your home, repossessing the items in your home. You can only ignore things for so long. But when you're reading that, I can't help but think, we have a government that will care more about Ukraine's borders than our own. We have American citizens worldwide or nationwide that are now living on the border because the border is now coming into their home. Break-ins are up, car thefts are up, identity theft is up, fraud is up, everything is up. And drug usage is just an epidemic. That is a true epidemic that's happening right now. And it's all because of the border. You have the sitting president of the United States willfully disobeying the separation of powers by going against the Supreme Court when they make a ruling or a decision based on something. They just go ahead and go with it anyway.
You mentioned a few examples on a previous video. Yep.
And he's not the first attorney that I've heard this from. I've heard it from several attorneys. I've heard attorneys in courtrooms laugh when you'd bring up. I've heard judges laugh when you would bring up the Constitution. There's no real, love, admiration, And think about also, what does the bar stand for? When an attorney passes the bar to become an attorney, what does bar stand for? British Accreditation Review.
Interesting.
Why is it called the British Accreditation Review? We're the United States of America. Why do we even need that term in here?
Exactly. I did not know that.
Didn't happen until after the Civil War. What changed? It's a good question to ask.
Yeah.
But we were uniquely different than most nations before us. Most Americans today don't even know that we are a constitutional republic. We are not a democracy. And most Americans don't even get up and vote. So you get the government you deserve. This last election, 80 million people voted for Joe Biden. Doubtful. I don't really believe those numbers. But let's say that 80 million did. And then you only had 40 million vote for Trump. There's still a lot of votes that are out there. A whole lot of people.
Yeah, you're looking at what, 340 million Americans?
360 million right now is the current tally.
Okay. And we have no idea with the borders open anyways. It can be right now 450 million for what we know.
But let's just say legal people that's allowed to vote, there's 360. That's not even half of that number that didn't even show up to vote. And I guarantee you that the vast majority of them are over 18 years old that can vote. Don't even show up. I talk to people constantly all the time that won't even go and vote. They feel like it's not worth their time, their effort, their energy.
I have to say I am one of them. I was able to get my citizenship not long ago, and I just had no desire to vote.
That's
said
what
it's
they
pointless.
Want. That's what they want. They want you to think that it's pointless. They really do. And on the national level, when in certain states, it could be pointless, like what we saw in Arizona, what we've seen in Pennsylvania, what we saw in Georgia. It could be fruitless for you to go and cast that ballot, but for federal elections, for federal seats. But for local elections, for things that are happening right around you, and those people, guess what they do? They're the ones that make policy on how the state's voting will be conducted. Look at what happened in Florida. They completely changed how they run their elections after the 2020 election. This past election is when that 2020 election happened, they completely changed how they were going to conduct their elections. And it is now considered the gold standard. It is almost impossible to commit fraud. And security is an illusion, but it's very difficult in Florida. Arkansas is a great state as well for voting. So as long as you continue to take care of the pennies, the dollars will take care of themselves, and then it'll work itself up the chain and it'll be more difficult. You can't tell me there's no reason to have voter ID. That's an excuse right off the bat so that you can perform some buffoonery to get what you want. If the United States Army can conduct elections all over the world for nations that we're involved in, and they can be some of the most secure elections that you could ever witness, why can't we do that at home? Why can't we activate the National Guard, federalize them, and make them be poll watchers? Make them be the couriers for every ballot box as it's being transitioned. There's definitely steps that you could take to mitigate risk throughout this process that aren't being taken at all. First of all, it needs to be a single day election right off the bat. And it should be a federal holiday where there is no activities unless it's absolutely necessary for life and emergency care. And during them, those companies and those supervisors need to figure out a way to give those individuals a way to go and vote. There's too much room for things to happen. Take away the opportunity, elections take care of themselves, and a lot of these things that we're having will go away. They'll take care of themselves.
Yeah, so the solution would be go out there and vote.
Yeah.
And you talked about when I first met you, you were really big on that. Go get involved with your local voting.
That's where you're going to see some immediate change.
That's where it's really at.
That's
when
where
you
you're going to
see
see some immediate
changes.
change.
Yeah, and like I said, I was one of those that was just kind of like, okay, I finally got my citizenship, but now I'm just completely, as I know a lot of people are disgusted by, in so many ways, from both parties. And I always said that everyone that follows me on Twitter, it is one party
They're
against
getting away with
we
it.
the people.
So why wouldn't they keep doing it?
We're letting it. Yeah,
We have a sitting president that now it's proven through the Twitter release files that colluded with China, colluded with Ukraine, colluded with Russia, made millions of dollars off of their name and their positions in the government, and nothing's happened. And nothing's going to happen. I promise you, nothing's going to happen because the people won't demand it. And it's your fault. It is absolutely your fault that you aren't forcing them to do the right thing. You have FBI agents that colluded with social media companies. You have...
Yeah, this is all now official.
It's all
out.
It's undeniably proven. You have 51 intelligence analysts that backed the Russia collusion narrative and disinformation to erase the Hunter Biden laptop scandal. And I guarantee you that's one of the reasons why Biden was able to walk into the presidency, even with all the voting fraud. Why aren't they being drugged? Why are they not being sent to jail? And you still got January 6 protesters sitting there. You talk about undue cause.
Two-tier justice system, two-tiered justice system.
No one's saying nothing.
Yeah.
No one's doing anything. So nothing's going to change. How millions of people aren't sitting in D.C. right now demanding that this man walk out of the office is beyond me. Absolutely beyond me.
Yeah, I believe 10 million people should show up on Capitol Hill peacefully.
There's no question now.
Peacefully, not even just asking for answers, not even demanding, just asking for answers nicely.
He's an illegitimate president. Verifiably proven.
Yeah, the Hunter Biden story, that was the outcome. The laptop was the whole thing. If this was blown up before, there is no way. I don't think he can win.
Everything that they tried to say about Trump was, in reality, what the Biden family was actually doing. You remember how they tried to say Russia collusion, Russia.
Yeah, this is typical Marxist play. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, they're just following the script.
You know, read Das Kapital. Read Karl Marx's manifesto. In there, it tells you exactly what to do to gain power over the people. Mao Zedong did it extremely well. Stalin did it well.
You got one of those books. We'll put it right there, too. By the way, these books that Brian put here, this is he's not selling these books. Obviously, he did not write them. He just put them out there because those are his favorites, just to make that clear.
Especially for what we're talking about today.
Exactly.
Everything that we're dealing with today is because we've had weak men creating hard times, and that comes from the fourth turning. And then also because men are not taking extreme ownership of the situation. We talked about all the time in the military about how NCOs specifically have to physically control the space in which soldiers operate. One, to guarantee that they're effective, and two, to guarantee their safety. Because there's a lot of unknowns that they're doing, right? As men, there's a lot of times that we have to physically control the space in which our kids are operating in too. And as we move up the ladder in our societies and we become stewards of our municipalities, our state government, county governments, and so forth, we have to physically control the space in which business is being conducted there. If you have something that comes through your office and you put your name onto it because you were too busy to read it, and then that gets enacted into something as a policy, and it was terrible, you own that now. And people need to demand accountability. The problem is right now, no one's demanding accountability. They're writing all these checks, and they're never having to cash them.
I mean, it's
a good
public servants, right?
Not anymore.
Turning into tyrants? Like we've seen that movie before, right?
Every
true story.
Name a federal politician that is now not wealthier after being in office than they were before they came in.
Yeah, it's so obvious.
That's corruption.
I mean, they're not even hiding it anymore.
You want to know how to define corruption? There's your definition. Real time, right in front of your face.
Yep.
Why do they get armed bodyguards while telling you need to turn in your rifles? Why do they get to build a wall around their homes when telling you that a border water
the
isn't
hypocrisy
needed?
and double standard is so in everyone's face. And again, nobody's asking. Nobody's trying to talk. This video might be taken down. This channel might be taken down because of us trying to talk. But guess what? We'll do it on Rumble. We'll try something else.
We'll find another
Your
option. Voices
need to be heard. People need to speak out. You cannot be afraid. You got to do it. That's kind of
Stop
like the
being
way I
afraid.
see it. Sums it up, right?
On the other side of fear is freedom. Stop being afraid. The greatest threat that you can have to all this stuff that's going on is to shine some light on it. Call them out on it. I've called our city government out on multiple things. I went to the county quorum court and listened to things that's going on.
You're one of a kind. I've seen how you how you do things, and I'm glad. Again, I'm speaking with you about this because you are one of the only people that I met that actually has the guts and the willpower to actually back up with what you're saying.
Well, it amazes me how people will care more about what others think about them than what they actually think about themselves. They will cut pieces of themselves away, of who they are, what makes them them, to lie to other people in the hopes that they'll like them. And meanwhile, they won't even go home and look at themselves in the mirror without a little bit of a shame. It's terrible.
It is terrible. But you had again another great quote. I don't know again if you came up with it, you read it somewhere. When it comes to fear, on the other side is freedom. Mm-hmm. That's a good one. That might be something that we have to either title this video on, or I just love that quote because it is so true. And it has nothing to do just with this part, what we're talking about. It's everything.
The first time
I heard life in general, right?
Yeah. The first time I heard it, I was getting ready to rappel off of a tower for air assault school. And I don't enjoy heights. I'm not terrified of them, but I don't enjoy them. And I was being a little bit apprehensive, and the cadre NCO came over, and he just grabbed me by my collar, and he was like, listen, on the other side of fear is freedom. Now get off my wall. And I just
did it. You just let go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for the rest, that was, I was not even 3-4 years in the military when that happened at that point, and I lived the rest of my life like that.
People need to share these videos. They need to make their own. And most importantly, go out there.
Get engaged.
Get in the game.
What do you have to lose?
Yeah.
What really? What do you?
Freedom is all. Constitution has been terminated. That's just what it is, and we let it happen. But now it is not too late. We still have some parts of Constitution intact. It's not looking good. But I'll finish the video off with asking Brian for one more to sum it up in 1 or 2 sentences. What do people need to do right now?
Well, if your way of life that you've lived is not worth getting up and going to a city council meeting or a quorum court meeting, then what's the point? If you don't want to give that same quality of life onto your children, what do you think is going to happen? They're going to lose it. You need to prepare yourself. You need to change your dynamics in the environment that you're operating in. Start at home. First, homeschool your kids if you can. Give up some of the extra pleasures that you have in life. TV, you don't need it. That extra car, maybe you don't need 2 cars. Purchasing that RV, whatever it is, give that up. Me and my wife have done it for a long time so that she could homeschool our kids. Don't let them be indoctrinated. Don't let them get constant propaganda in their face 24/7 from the iPads, from the phones, from everything else. Take it away from them. Physically control the space in which your children are operating in, and then educate them on being a good steward of our great nation. And show them what courage looks like. You may not want to go and speak up at that city council meeting. Take your kids with you. It'll be something that they will remember for the rest of their life, and they'll be so proud of you for doing it. Own it. Own the area that you're operating in, and do not allow weak men, because at the end of the day, that's what they are. They're absolutely weak. When they feel a little bit of pressure coming back at them, they're gonna kowtow and go away. They're going to try to use the power of the state and bluff some stuff at you in the hopes that they'll get you to stop. But they're weak, they're incapable, and it won't work. Trust me, I've seen it time and time and time again. The moment you start to walk away, though, and turn the cheek and start to go, then they're going to come and get emboldened. They're going to do more and more. Be aggressive, stand up, and look them in the face and tell them what they're doing is wrong, because they know it's wrong too. Just no one's calling them out on it. Be the one that does. Be the change that you want.
Wow. I think we're good. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. I really hope we can do another video right after holidays. So
I'm sure we can.
again, it was co-host Brian Norris, retired first sergeant from the Army. Take care, man.
Yeah, you too, buddy.
We are out.